The war where brother became enemy to brother, Spain's bleeding wound. When we think of Spain, sunny beaches, flamenco, and vibrant nightlife might come to mind. But in fact, a century ago, these lands were hosting Europe's darkest and bloodiest reckonings. Spain, constantly weakening since the 19th century, struggling with economic crises and coups, was in the grip of chronic chaos. Let's examine how modern Spain's foundations were laid on a powder keg. Whether fate's whim or a chronic cycle, Spain was chaos itself at the beginning of the 20th century. Monarchists with republicans, rightists with leftists, centralists with peoples thirsty for Catalan and Basque autonomy, Catholic conservatives with secularists, landowners with the poor, capitalists with workers were in a relentless struggle. However, this chronic polarization took on a completely different dimension with the proclamation of the Second Spanish Republic in 1931, because this republic became the fuse that dragged Spain into civil war, and the name who lit this fuse was General Francisco Franco. But how? Following the First World War, authoritarian leaders took the stage in Spain, as in many European countries. In 1923, General Miguel Primo de Rivera declared himself dictator with a pronunciamiento. However, the people's initial hope quickly faded due to Primo's authoritarian governance approach and shortcomings in modernization efforts. The rising left liberal and intellectual opposition against the regime cornered the dictator. When the army did not provide the expected support, Primo had to leave the country in 1930. King Alfonso XIII struggled to preserve his 45-year-old inherited crown, but was helpless against the people's rebellion. The municipal elections held in 1931 turned into a revolution at the ballot box. The socialists achieved an overwhelming victory. This election victory brought the end of the monarchy, while also carrying the birth pangs of the Second Spanish Republic. The same year, while the deposed king went into exile in Italy, the Second Spanish Republic was proclaimed. However, the coming of the Republic, far from healing wounds, deepened the ideological chaos in the country even more. Monarchists with republicans, rightists with leftists, centralists with Basque and Catalan nationalists, Catholic conservatives with secularists, order supporters with anarchists, workers with employers were in a relentless struggle. Spain was sinking deeper every day in the anarchy of ideologies. But the most painful of these divisions would be the fraternal conflict fueled by radical ideologies. In this tense environment, a young man named Francisco Franco Bahamonde, born in the city of Ferrol, was advancing confidently toward his destiny. Franco, who had dreamed of joining the Royal Navy since childhood, although he could not achieve this goal, graduated from the Toledo Infantry Academy in 1910. Volunteering to participate in Spain's wars to colonize northern Morocco, Franco rose rapidly with his successes against Abdelkrim al-Khattabi, who founded the Rif Republic in 1921. In 1926, at only 33 years old, he received the title of Europe's youngest general after Napoleon. This success made him a hero among Spanish nationalists, and in 1928, he was appointed commander of the Zaragoza Military Academy. However, the new republic looked at the army with suspicion, worried about the possibility of a military coup. Therefore, the Zaragoza Academy headed by Franco was closed, and he was transferred to passive duty. This move did nothing but fuel Franco's already existing socialist hatred. During this period of passive duty, Franco was set to wait for the socialist government's mistakes. He wanted to come to power with a ruthless coup when the opportunity came his way. With the rightist party coming to power in October 1933, Franco was called back to active duty. But the now organized and armed Spanish left was not willing to accept this defeat. In October 1934, the socialists called for a nationwide strike and started an uprising. The burning and destruction of churches by leftist and anarchist organizations, the massacre of priests, caused great outrage throughout the country. But this time, a name that would change the country's fate was taking the stage: General Francisco Franco. The rightist government gave him full authority to suppress the uprising. Franco suppressed the uprising with unimaginable severity, not hesitating to massacre thousands of people involved in the events. This bloody suppression once again revealed Franco's ruthlessness. While in Spain, the arrow had left the bow, and ideological conflict had turned into an armed reckoning. After 2 years passed in the shadow of chaos and corruption, the Popular Front won the elections held in February 1936 again. This victory would bring the country to the brink of an even greater disaster. In July, the assassination of Sotelo, the leader of the nationalist opposition by socialists, was the last straw for the Spanish right. The ultimate opportunity that General Franco and his coup-planning friends had been waiting for came with the bloody traces of a terrible assassination. On July 18, 1936, a radio announcement echoing from the Canary Islands was the harbinger of a disaster that would shake Spain. Military uprising. The army led by Generals José Sanjurjo, Emilio Mola, and Francisco Franco raised the banner of rebellion against the Republic. The same day, Franco seized control of the Spanish army in Morocco and began preparations for a mainland landing. While the country was literally divided politically, geographically, and militarily, the footsteps of civil war were being heard more and more. However, the rebels' joy was short-lived. In important cities like Madrid, Seville, and Malaga, armed socialist groups succeeded in defeating the rebel soldiers. Sanjurjo lost his life in a suspicious plane crash at the very beginning of the coup. This suspicious death was the first mysterious veil that opened Franco's path to leadership. Franco wanted to make a mainland landing with the powerful African army in Morocco, but the Republican Navy was cutting off the sea route. Hitler sent aircraft and Mussolini's ships came into play, transporting Franco and his men to the mainland. As soon as Franco set foot on the mainland, he began massacring resistors in rural areas. Mola was proclaiming the rebels' ruthless strategy by saying, "It is necessary to spread fear. Everyone who does not think like us must be eliminated without hesitation or doubt." However, despite all these efforts, the rebels could not achieve the progress they wanted, and the socialists were expanding the areas they controlled with each passing day. This young general's call for help, ideologically close to them, was an opportunity for European dictators Hitler and Mussolini to turn Spain into a laboratory for the approaching global war. However, the international community had made a decision not to send weapons to the warring parties. But Hitler and Mussolini did not heed this decision. On July 29, 1936, they sent warplanes and thousands of soldiers to Franco. While Mussolini piled 70,000 Italian soldiers into Spain, Hitler placed modern aircraft fleets and the Condor Legion, consisting of over 50,000 volunteer soldiers, under Franco's command. On the other hand, although Soviet leader Stalin initially adhered to this agreement, he would be forced to extend a helping hand to the Republicans in the following process. But this help would be far below expectations, even often useless. While the Soviets sent old and poor weapons to the Republicans in exchange for gold, Western countries preferred to remain silent. Franco launched a total offensive with the wind of this support. He first captured Seville. Then, while advancing toward Madrid, he was massacring resistors in the cities he entered, burning and destroying houses. This was not just a war, but terror propaganda. Although the Republican government fled to Valencia as he approached Madrid, civilian resistors took over the city's defense. But the people of Madrid did not bow to this cruelty. Strengthened with Russian aircraft and T-26 tanks, the city repelled Franco's first attacks, proclaiming to the entire world that Spain's heart was resisting. 1937 was a year when conflicts reached their peak. The failure of Italian units at Guadalajara caused Mussolini's great disappointment. But the Italian units were defeated in the face of harsh weather conditions and the socialists' fierce resistance. While Mussolini watched his destroyed units in horror, Franco began to listen more to the Germans' words. In the north, General Mola was trying to cut the Republicans' connection with the French border in the Basque region campaign, and was successful in this. However, as victory slowly took shape, the power struggle in the Nationalist front was also heating up. While Franco did not want to lose the support of the royalist base, General Mola was pursuing an anti-royalist policy. Right at this time, like General Sanjurjo, Mola also lost his life in a suspicious plane crash. The allegations that Franco's fingerprints were behind this accident were never proven, but the leadership of the Right Front was now indisputably in General Franco's hands. By 1938, exhausted socialists began desperately fleeing to neighboring countries because Franco, backed by fascist Italy and Nazi Germany, was now an unstoppable force. While attacking Madrid from 4 sides, he had taken control of 2/3 of the country by April. The Republicans launched a counteroffensive at the Ebro River with one last hope. However, these final struggles were not enough to stop Franco's iron will and the enormous power behind him. The Battle of Ebro became one of the bloodiest and most devastating conflicts of the war. While both sides fought with superhuman effort, the Ebro turned into a crimson river with Spanish blood. While approximately 50,000 Republican soldiers lost their lives in these bloody lands, Franco's victory was becoming inevitable. The Catalonia campaign that began in December 1938 also brought down the Republicans' last economic and military stronghold. When Franco entered Barcelona, the city was mercilessly plundered. A civilian's desire to kill his brother, given a weapon simply because he had different thoughts, was perhaps the pinnacle of inhumanity. Approximately 500,000 people fled to France in horror. Although Madrid showed one last resistance, the Republicans' hopes were now exhausted. On April 1st, 1939, Franco proclaimed his victory on the radio. El Caudillo was Spain's new and only leader, but this victory meant that terror was just beginning for thousands of refugees and civilians in horror. The destruction of the Civil War and the economic crises of the subsequent Second World War had turned Spain into a country struggling with hunger. While Franco tried to raise the country with conservative policies, he was also consolidating his oppressive regime. All languages except Spanish were banned. Fundamental rights such as divorce, women traveling alone, inheriting, and opening bank accounts were shelved. However, this bloody alliance would turn into a dead end for Franco. Although Hitler and Mussolini had given great support to Franco in the Civil War, his attitude toward Christianity and the invasion of Poland disturbed Franco, a devout Catholic. Despite all of Hitler's pressure, Franco avoided directly involving Spain in World War II. Only with a delaying tactic did he send the Blue Division, consisting of 50,000 volunteers, to fight against the Soviet Union in Leningrad. When the war ended with Hitler's defeat in 1945, Franco became the target of Western countries as the only remaining Nazi ally in power. He was not admitted to the United Nations and was isolated by the international community. However, fate's whim came to Franco's rescue: the Cold War. The tension between America and the Soviet Union turned the Franco regime into a strategic fortress against communism for the West. With the Madrid Pact signed in 1953, Franco received financial aid from America and allowed American air bases to be established in his country. This sudden strategic turn transformed Franco from being an enemy of the West into a shield against communism. Spain, emerging from international isolation this way, was admitted to the United Nations in 1955. Franco made good use of this opportunity. Spain made great strides in many areas, especially automation and tourism, becoming the world's second fastest growing economy after Japan. But this economic miracle came at the cost of the people's political freedoms. However, Franco's iron fist was slowly beginning to loosen with his old age and illness. The dictator, who had contracted Parkinson's, also got into trouble with the ETA organization seeking independence in the Basque region. From 1968 onwards, ETA's deadly bomb attacks were deeply shaking the Franco regime. The 1973 oil crisis undermined Spain's economic growth while further increasing the people's dissatisfaction with the regime. The same year, Franco transferred the prime ministership to his right-hand man, General Blanco, but only 6 months later, on December 20th, 1973, ETA killed Blanco in a bomb attack. The regime was shaking. While opponents were impatiently waiting for this moment, on November 20th, 1975, General Francisco Franco closed his eyes to life at age 83. The 36-year dictatorship was consigned to the pages of history. Franco had left the throne to Juan Carlos, whom he thought he got along well with, believing the regime would continue. But the young king would not follow in the dictator's footsteps and would open a new page for Spain. Under the leadership of Juan Carlos, who promised his people democratization, Spain reunited with freedom and democracy with the elections held in 1977. Thus, while a dictatorship era came to an end, Spain's long and bloody history set sail for a new beginning.